Welcome, dear souls, to a tale where destiny's threads weave the unimaginable, a story of two hearts entwined by fate's gentle hand. Tonight, we open the door to a world of moonlit confessions, whispered promises, and the transformative power of compassion. Before you journey further, I ask, have you ever loved someone without knowing who they truly were? Let your heart wander as questions stir. Can love bridge the chasm between worlds? May this story lift your spirit, and may you find in its echoes a blessing. That kindness, even in the darkest hour, can ignite hope. A chill wind swept through the marble foyer of Sanderson Industries' penthouse, riffling the heavy velvet drapes as Julian Blackwood, CEO, prodigy, and reclusive heart, stood before the opulent fireplace. His tailored tuxedo fit like armor, concealing the silent ache of betrayal that lay beneath his steely gaze, the crackle of flames, the scent of sandalwood and old paper. Across from him, his gravely voiced lawyer cleared his throat. Mr. Blackwood, as per Clause 17B of the Hathaway Accord, you are to formalize the union with Miss Eveline Grayton by month's end. Julian's jaw clenched. A contract marriage, an arrangement bound by ink and obligation. No love, no passion. Just power and the preservation of his family's legacy. He slid a cufflink into place, its onyx surface catching the firelight. Marriage to a stranger who vanished without leaving a forwarding address. His thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime announcing the arrival of his guest. He turned. In stepped a woman cloaked in tattered elegance, a threadbare coat, a faded red scarf that once spoke of warmth, now frayed at the edges. Her chestnut hair lay tangled, as if the night itself had wrestled it into submission. But her eyes, emerald beacons against the darkness, held a fierce defiance that both intrigued and unnerved Julian. She took in the grandeur of the penthouse with a lifted chin, breath dancing in silver mist before her lips. I am here for the Hathaway Accord, she said, voice roughened by cold nights on the streets. Julian's heart stumbled. Miss Grayton. She met his gaze unflinchingly. If you please, Mr. Blackwood, shall we proceed? The lawyer cleared, his throat again. The documents, sir. On the mahogany table lay papers embossed with gold leaf. Eveline approached, every footstep echoing softly. She paused, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Could such hardship hide such poise? She lithely sat, signing with a trembling flourish. The final stroke sealed their fates. Bold moment. When Eveline's pen met the parchment, the chandeliers flickered, as if the world itself gasped at the binding vow. Later that evening, Julian escorted Eveline to the grand ballroom. Towering, columns, crystal chandeliers, and an audience eager to witness the union. Guests in couture whispered as she passed, some with pity, others with thinly veiled disdain. Julian guided her to the center, drapes parting like a stage unveiling a masterpiece. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, voice resonant, please, welcome my bride. A hush fell. Eveline's heart thundered. She felt the weight of every gaze, every question unspoken. She lifted her chin proudly. I am more than my coat, more than my scars. The music swelled, strings weaving through the hush, and they performed their first dance, stiff steps, practiced smiles. Julian found himself watching Eveline's silhouette, the gentle curve of her neck, the tremor in her shoulders. Compassion stirred where only obligation had dwelt. That night, the grand suite awaited, silk linen sheets, aged mahogany furniture, and the lingering scent of jasmine. Moonlight spilled across the room as Eveline paced, boots clicking on polished floors. Julian watched from the window, distance measured in heartbeats. She turned. Thank you for tonight, she murmured. I know this is unconventional. He nodded. Business first. Her laugh was soft, almost fragile. I did it for my brother. Julian frowned. Your brother? Eveline's gaze dropped. She approached, clasping his hands. I needed shelter, just one night, to keep him from freezing. I never imagined... Her voice cracked. I never imagined marrying a billionaire. Julian's breath caught. This isn't charity. She looked up, emerald eyes shining with unshed tears. I know. Silence stretched like a tightening cord. On impulse, Julian drew her close. Their breath mingled in the pale moonlight. In this moment, her fragility is his fortress. They stood poised on the brink, two souls bound by duty, yet inching toward something far more perilous. As Julian reached to brush a stray lock from Eveline's face, a crumpled envelope slid from her coat pocket to the floor. He picked it up, lid betraying a hastily scrawled name. Silas Grayton. He stiffened. Eveline's eyes widened. She whispered, He's all I have left. A low rumble of thunder shook the window panes. Lightning revealed Julian's conflicted expression, bold, dramatic phrase. This night would bind them in vows and secrets. Before Julian could ask another question, the door slammed open. A shadow filled the frame, and a voice cut through the hush. You have 36 hours to return what belongs to me, or your bride's life will be forfeit. Eveline's breath froze. Julian's hand hovered over the envelope. The thunder roared in answer, sealing the promise of a storm yet to come. Julian paced the length of the suite, the plush carpet muffling his steps. Eveline stood by the window, shoulders slumped, watching rain trace rivulets down the glass. The city sleeps. Below, yet in this room, danger wakes. He stopped beside her. Who sent that message? His voice was low, fierce. She turned, eyes glistening. My brother, Silas. He's in debt to dangerous men. I thought, if I agreed to this marriage, I could use whatever little dowry I had to pay them off. Julian's jaw clenched. You sold yourself for pennies. Her lips trembled. I didn't have pennies, Mr. Blackwood. I had nothing. Her pain is a song I never learned to play. He drew a slow breath. We'll fix this. Her laugh was hollow. Fix it? You just met. Me. He covered her hand with his, surprising them both. Electricity pulsed at their touch. Dawn crept over the horizon, painting the suite in pale gold. Eveline and Julian sat at the breakfast table, 2 teacups steaming between them. He watched her stir sugar into chamomile tea, the porcelain spoon, catching morning light. The silence between them was heavy with unasked questions. Finally, Eveline spoke. You don't have to help me. He lifted his gaze, steely resolve in his eyes. I do. You deserve more than surviving. She looked down at her hands. Survival was my whole world. How do you show someone beauty? Beyond the struggle that shaped them? He placed a single blueberry on her saucer. Taste this. She blinked, then tasted. A burst of sweetness against the tart rim of her tongue. She laughed softly. I forgot berries could taste like flowers. He allowed a ghost of a smile. Then let me remind you. That afternoon, Julian invited Eveline to his office, a modern cathedral of glass overlooking the city. He hoped sunlight would chase away her shadows. As they entered, the door clicked. From the far corner rose a familiar silhouette. Vivian Hartman, Julian's ex-fiancée, and the society darling he had once loved. Her presence is a blade veiled in silk. Vivian's smile was slow, practiced. Julian, what a surprise. His posture stiffened. Vivienne. She turned to Eveline, coquette charm radiating. And you must be my replacement. Eveline's gaze hardened. Replacement? Vivian's lips curved. Of course, I was next in line until certain circumstances intervened. Julian's hand clenched at his side. This isn't about you. Vivian's eyes glimmered with something colder than ice. But it is. You owe me an explanation. Eveline's heart thundered. She saw in Vivian's perfect poise the echo of every harsh word she had ever spoken. Even the kindest souls meet cruelty cloaked as civility. That evening, at a charity gala hosted by Sanderson Industries, Julian escorted Eveline under crystal chandeliers. They moved through the crowd, whispers trailing like silk threads. Vivian appeared by their side, hand on Julian's arm. May I? She asked Eveline, voice honeyed poison. Eveline offered a polite smile. Vivian extended her own hand, a triumphant invitation. They danced. Julian watched as Vivian whispered into Eveline's ear. Eveline's brow furrowed. What venom is slipping past her lips? Suddenly Eveline stumbled, disoriented. Julian caught her. Her face paled. She's seen ghosts. Vivian murmured loudly enough for both to hear. Perhaps she's unwell. Gasps rippled through onlookers. Julian's eyes blazed. Leave us. Vivian swept away, lips quirked in a smirk of victory. Eveline trembled in Julian's arms. I'm fine. He guided her to a secluded alcove, concern etched across his features. Tell me. Her voice was a whisper. She said my brother never existed. She said you have no reason to care about me. Julian's heart hammered. I care, because I choose to. Night settled like a velvet shroud as Julian escorted Eveline home. Rain pounded the streets, headlights slicing through the haze. At her door, he paused. I will protect you. No contract will bind me more than my own will. She searched his eyes. Promise? He drew her close. I promise. Suddenly, headlights flooded her doorway. 2 black SUVs screeched to a halt. Men in tailored suits spilled out, weapons glinting. Julian's protective arm sweeps around Eveline. Stay behind me. A cold voice cracked through the rain. Mr. Blackwood, step aside, and... No one gets hurt. Julian's gaze flicked to Eveline, fear and fierce determination mingling in his look. In the storm's heart, their fate hangs by a single breath. Morning light slanted through the lace curtains, illuminating the scattered papers on Julian's desk. He studied the city skyline, mind racing with questions about Eveline. Her honesty and courage haunted him, yet shadows of doubt lingered. How well do we ever truly know another soul? He rose and retrieved the crumpled envelope from her coat, laying it beside a stack of reports. Beneath the scrawl, Silas Grayton, he discovered a folded photograph. Eveline, younger, in a sunlit courtyard surrounded by laughing orphans. Julian's breath hitched. The courtyard belonged to St. Raphael's home, an orphanage he'd quietly funded for years under a pseudonym. She's the secret guardian of my own heart's work. His pulse pounded. Could this fragile woman truly conceal such boundless kindness? Later that day, Julian arranged a business meeting for Eveline at Sanderson's Charitable Foundation office, an elegant room scented with polished wood and fresh lilies. He watched her pore over files listing orphanage sponsorships, her finger tracing names with care. Miss Grayton, he began softly. Do you recognize these addresses? Her eyes widened as she took in the list. These are the homes I visit, to distribute supplies, to read stories to the children. He handed her the photograph. And this courtyard? Tears shimmered on her lashes. That's Silas's favorite place. He loves the orphans. He wanted me to help them after he left. Her kindness is deeper than any ocean I've crossed. Julian's heart constricted with admiration and sorrow. He vowed silently, "I will protect her light at any cost." That evening, Eveline joined Julian for dinner in his private dining room. Soft light, polished silver, and the faint melody of a distant piano. He planned to confess his admiration, to offer her more than protection. But Vivian appeared unannounced, leaning in the doorway like a sultry shadow. "Dinner? How intimate," she purred. Eveline stiffened. "Good evening, Miss Hartman." Vivian's smile held ice. "I hope I'm not interrupting your charity gala for one." She held up a slender tablet. "I couldn't help but notice these transactions to St. Raphael's. Quite generous." Julian's eyes narrowed. "Do you have something to say?" Vivian tapped the screen. A graph displayed donations rising just before Eveline's arrival. And a note. "All funds originate from Mr. Blackwood's personal account." Eveline stared. "But that can't be." Vivian's laugh was a dagger. "Oh, I'm afraid it is. Signed, your dear brother's creditors. They claim you're laundering my fiancé's money. The seeds of doubt have taken root." Julian rose, chair screeching softly. "Explain." His voice was silk over steel. Eveline's cheeks flushed. "It's not true. I never asked for his money. I used my own savings, whatever I could scrape, together." Vivian leaned forward. "You see, gentlemen, I have here forged bank statements. If Mr. Blackwood wishes to avoid scandal, he'll annul his marriage at once." Julian's pulse thundered in his ears. He seized the tablet, scrolling to find metadata marking Vivian's corporate email. Lies. All of them. Vivian's eyes flashed. "Then prove otherwise." Eveline sank to the floor, trembling. "Julian, He knelt beside her, voice low. "Trust me." He pocketed the tablet. "I'll clear this." Under cover of night, Julian accessed secured servers in his office. His fingers flew across the keyboard, tracing fund flows. He located anonymized transactions bearing his secret donor code, his own label. He exhaled. Proof. He printed. The transaction logs showing Eveline's negligible contributions fueled entirely by her tiny stipend. The truth is a blade that cuts through artifice. At dawn, he delivered the logs to Eveline in her modest flat on the outskirts. She leafed through the pages with trembling hands, each sheet a balm to her wounded pride. "Why would Vivian do this?" she whispered. He folded the papers, gaze intense. "Because she's afraid of losing me. She'll stop at nothing." He slid the proof into her hands. "Show her what real integrity looks like." 2 days later, a tremor of anxiety rippled through Sanderson Industries. Confidential blueprints for a revolutionary medical device had leaked online. Julian's team was stunned, and the device was Eveline's late mother's design, entrusted to his company for development. He confronted Eveline in the lab's hollow white corridor, fluorescent lights humming overhead. "How did you get those prototypes?" she recoiled. "I didn't." He studied her, torn between anger and belief. "Someone used your credentials." A shadow fell over them. Silas Grayton, ragged and hollow-eyed, stepped forward. "They threatened me. They said if I didn't steal the designs, they'd kill us both." Eveline's gasp echoed. "Silas!" Julian's expression hardened. "Then you both lied to me." She shook her head, tears brimming. "We lied to protect you. From them. We didn't know where else to turn." That night, Julian and Eveline paced the rooftop terrace, the city, lights shimmering below. Rain threatened but held its breath. He took her hands. "Your secrets have cost you so much." His voice broke. "I wish you'd trusted me from the start." Her shoulders trembled. "I was afraid you'd see only a beggar, not the woman who loved you." He cupped her face. "I see you, all of you." He kissed her gently, raindrops catching on their skin. Sometimes only the storm can wash away our fears. Unbeknownst to them, Vivian watched from the shadows, phone in hand. She dialed quickly. "It's time to finish this." Moments later, an anonymous tip reached the press. Billionaire's bride, a fugitive from justice, brother on the run for intellectual theft. Headlines exploded at midnight, scandal erupting, across social feeds. Julian's phone buzzed incessantly. He stared, heart frozen. He turned to Eveline, pale as moonlight. "They've painted you as a criminal," she bit her lip. "I don't know how to clear my name. When the world turns against you, only the bravest heart can stand by your side." Determined, Julian called a midnight board meeting. He presented the forensic audit proving Eveline's innocence and Vivian's tampering. Some directors wavered, but a few loyal allies, trustees of St. Raphael's who recognized Eveline's true work, rose in her defense. By dawn, the press was fed the corrected story. The real culprit was Vivian Hartman, expelled from the company for fraud and libel. Headlines reversed. Eveline collapsed into Julian's arms in the penthouse foyer. "You believed in me when no one else would." He brushed her hair back. "Because I love you." Victorious yet weary, they sat together in the quiet grand salon. Julian traced circles on Eveline's hand. She closed her eyes, content. But then his phone chimed with an encrypted message. "We know where your brother really is. If you want him alive, bring the master key to the research vault or lose him forever." Julian's pulse thundered. Eveline's eyes flew open, terror and determination warring in her gaze. The true fight has only just begun. Midnight thunder rattled the windows of Sanderson Industries' underground research vault. Julian stood before the steel door, heart hammering. Rainwater dripped from his coat, pooling at his polished shoes. Every second brings Silas closer to harm. Eveline clutched the master key, its weight a promise and a threat. Footsteps echoed behind them. Masked figures emerged, weapons low but eyes fierce. "Hand over the key," the leader rasped, "or your brother dies." Eveline pressed the key into Julian's trembling hand. "Let him go. I'll stay." Her voice was steady, though her lips trembled. He stepped back, torn. "No. I can't lose you too." She placed a gentle palm on his chest. "This is my burden to bear." In her eyes I see the depth of her love and her sorrow. He nodded, swallowing his fear. As masked men seized Eveline, she smiled at Julian, brave as a warrior mounting the ramparts. Eveline was dragged to the lab's high-security wing. The air smelled of antiseptic and fear. She lay chained to a stainless steel table, heart pounding. Like a war drum, a lab technician in a spotless coat approached, eyes cold. "Ready for the procedure?" She stiffened. "You'll never get away with this," he shrugged. "They already have." Outside, Julian tore through corridors, alarms blaring behind him. He clutched the key, eyes wild. Blood pounded in his ears. Find her, protect her, no matter the cost. He hacked the security feed, tracking Eveline's transfer to a mobile medical unit speeding through the rain. He leapt into a waiting car, engine roaring to life. The SUV skidded to a halt in a deserted warehouse district. Eveline lay unconscious on an operating table, IV drip hissing beside her. Surgical lights cast ghostly glows. Masked figures assembled around her, preparing experimental equipment. Julian burst in. "Stop!" His voice shattered the sterile hush. A masked man injected Eveline's arm. She convulsed. "No," Julian ripped, free a tray of scalpel instruments. But 2 guards overpowered him. Eveline's eyes fluttered open, panic and pain swirling within. Flashlights danced across concrete walls, as Eveline collapsed into unconsciousness. Julian cradled her, his suit stained with her blood. Terror clawed at his chest. I have failed her. Paramedics summoned by Vivian's final betrayal arrived, stamped with city hospital badges. They loaded Eveline onto a stretcher and fled. Julian screamed her name, but the ambulance doors slammed shut. Back at the penthouse, Vivian stood before Julian, arms crossed. You lost. Again. Her voice was triumph cloaked in silk. What did you do to her? He snarled. She shrugged. A minor setback. She'll wake, eventually. Julian's gaze turned ice. You'll pay. Vivian's smile widened. Only if you survive. There's a storm coming for you, too. She slipped away, footsteps echoing like final breaths. Even the strongest hearts can be shattered by one cruel betrayal. Eveline lay in a private hospital room, machines beeping steadily. Her face was pale as moonlight, arms bound by unseen cords of fate. Julian sat beside her, hand pressed to her cold one. Tears blurred his vision. Wake up, he whispered, voice breaking. I need you. He pulled from his pocket the photograph of the orphanage courtyard, her childhood sanctuary, and placed it in her palm. I will carry you through this storm, my love. As rain lashed the window panes, Eveline's chest rose and fell, a fragile promise of tomorrow. Outside the deserted hospital courtyard, rain-slicked cobblestones glistened like shattered glass. Julian Blackwood stood beneath a lone street lamp, coat collar turned up against the storm. In his hand, the prototype device, Eveline's mother's life-changing invention, rested like a fragile promise. Everything I have, everything I am, hinges on this moment. Footsteps approached in staccato rhythm. Vivian Hartman emerged from the gloom, a cruel smile playing on her lips. Behind her, Silas Grayton stumbled, bound and bruised. Deliver it, Vivian whispered, voice as cold as the rain or she dies. Julian's jaw clenched. He pressed the device to his chest. Release him and tell me where she is. Vivian laughed softly. You know I can't do that. Lightning flashed, illuminating her face twisted with triumph. Choose device or her life. In this choice lies our fate. Julian closed his eyes. Memories flooded him. Eveline's trembling confession, her gentle laughter among orphans, her sacrifice for her brother. He slipped the prototype into Vivian's hand. Do it, he said, voice unsteady. Vivian's triumph faltered. You're in no position to bargain. At that moment, a distant siren wailed. Julian knew reinforcements he'd quietly alerted were closing in. Vivian hissed, You tricked me. She slapped the device onto the wet pavement, its circuits crackling as water seeped in. Julian lunged, but Vivian kicked him aside, boots glancing off his coat. Goodbye, Julian. She vanished into the night, dragging Silas by the collar. He stumbled, then crumpled. No, not like this. Julian tore after them, heart pounding, rain lashing at his face. The sirens drew nearer, a promise of salvation. Moments later, masked by thunder, police cruisers screeched to a halt. Officers fanned out, flashlights slicing through the rain. Vivian turned, gun drawn, but paused at the sight. Let him go, barked Detective Moreno, voice authoritative. Or we shoot. Vivian hesitated, the storm raging inside her. Eyes. Behind her, Silas lay huddled, chest rising and falling with ragged breaths. Julian appeared at the edge of the light, drenched but defiant. It's over, Vivian. Her grip on the gun loosened. I won't lose him, or you. He advanced, calm as dawn. You already have. Conviction broke something in her. Tears mingled with raindrops as she collapsed, weapon clattering on the cobblestones. Even the hardest hearts can crack beneath their own weight. Detective Moreno cuffed Vivienne while paramedics rushed to Silas's side. Julian dropped to his knees beside Silas, lifting his brother's head. "It's okay. You're safe." Silas's eyes fluttered. "Eve." "She's coming," Julian promised. "I swear it." Back at City Hospital, Eveline lay pale beneath crisp white sheets. Beeping monitors marked the rhythm of hope. Julian paced the corridor, coat dripping water onto gleaming tiles. Suddenly, the door burst open. Silas, supported by 2 officers, rushed forward. "She needs you," he said hoarsely. Julian crossed the room and took Eveline's hand. Her fingers twitched. Her eyelids fluttered. She inhaled, chest rising like a newborn dawn. Blue eyes opened, immediately seeking his. "Julian?" Her voice was a whisper, but it shattered every barrier around his heart. He leaned close, brushing a wet strand of hair from her forehead. "Welcome back, my love." Tears pooled in Eveline's eyes. "I thought—" "You're here," he said, voice thick. "You're here." They embraced gently, rain-soaked world shrinking to that hospital room. Silas watched, tears in his own eyes, as sister and savior reunited. Days later, in the polished halls of Sanderson Industries, Vivienne Hartman faced a board hearing. Evidence of her sabotage, the falsified bank statements, the stolen designs, the kidnapping plots, stacked high on the mahogany table. Directors whispered. Julian stood at the head of the table, resolute. "Miss Hartman," he began, voice calm yet unyielding. "Your reign of deceit ends today." Vivienne's eyes flickered, then drooped with exhaustion. "I loved you," she said softly, defeat in her tone. Julian met her gaze. "You loved the idea of me, but not me." She slumped, weary and broken. Security escorted her from the boardroom, head bowed. As the door closed, Julian turned to the assembled directors. "Let this be a lesson. Trust and integrity must guide our path, not greed and revenge." They nodded in solemn agreement. That evening, under a sky washed clean by rain, Julian led Eveline to St. Raphael's orphanage courtyard, now brilliantly restored. Lanterns glowed along cobblestone paths. Children laughed and danced in the warm lamplight. At the center stood a fountain, its marble carved with Eveline's mother's design for the prototype device, a symbol of healing and hope. Julian took Eveline's hand and guided her forward. "For you," he said, voice thick with emotion, "and for every child who deserves a chance." He unveiled a bronze plaque. "In honor of Eveline and Julian, may compassion and courage light the darkest paths." Eveline pressed a hand to her heart, tears shining. "It's more beautiful than I ever dreamed." He swept her into his arms. "You made it beautiful." Children gathered around, presenting Eveline with wildflowers. Their laughter filled the night like music, proof that love's echoes resonate far beyond 2 hearts. Later, beneath a canopy of stars, Julian and Eveline stood on the orphanage terrace. A gentle breeze carried the scent of lilies and hope. Eveline looked into his eyes. "We survived the storm." He brushed her cheek. "Because we faced it together." She smiled softly. "Love isn't about perfection. It's about standing by each other when the world turns dark." He nodded. "And showing mercy, even to those who wrong us." They turned to watch children chase fireflies, tiny sparks of joy in velvet night. The moral of our tale, dear friends: true love shines brightest when tempered by compassion, sacrifice, and unwavering faith. Thank you for joining us on this journey, from moonlit contracts to dawn's gentle promise. We've witnessed devotion born of desperation, secrets unveiled by courage, and ultimate redemption through love's enduring light. May this story remind you, even the most fractured hearts can find wholeness, and kindness can transform destinies. Did this story touch your heart? Share your thoughts and blessings below. Until we meet again beneath starlit skies, may your days be filled with love's sweet grace. Blessing. May your compassion be as steadfast as Julian's resolve, and your love as boundless as Eveline's sacrifice.